Go ahead.
Meeting called to order. Today is Tuesday, April 2nd. Town Council meeting in the first fiscal year 20 public hearing, 1170 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island.
Councilman Licciardi?
Here.
Councilwoman Williamson?
Here.
Councilman Messier?
Here.
Council Vice President D'Amico?
Here.
Council President Goslin?
Here.
There is a quorum. Public hearing on proposed FY20, July 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2020 municipal budget.
Mr. Manager, any updates before we move on?
At this point, there's nothing official or changing from where we were 2 weeks ago when the budget was presented. No updates from the state, and the revaluation is still ongoing. Just by way of background, on the March 18th, the proposed budget was submitted to the council, $100,931,028. Of that, $58.6 million is to support the school system. $42.3 million was to support municipal operations. It's about a $4 million increase to the budget, 4.4%. Of that, about $1.9 million is for the school department, which has been offset by state aid. So the school department has requested another year of level funding for local appropriation. The municipal budget is up $2,028,093, which is a 2.09% increase. In order to support these plans, 3.99% increase in the property tax levy will be necessary. At this time, it's impossible to say what the actual tax rates will be. I know there's always a concern when you go through a revaluation, and when you're in a market that appreciates, you get your values and you say, wow, is this values up? Is this going to be the tax rate I have? But the tax rate will go down. It's just a matter of how much. And as we go forward, more and more information will be available, with that. And as it is, it'll be submitted to the council. As I said, we had two budget reviews with the department heads on the 18th, March 18th, and March 26th. As was indicated, this is the first of two public hearings, and hopefully public will come and ask a question or express their views on the budget, and this is the appropriate time.
I'm going to start with, the council's had its chance to speak, and I'm sure you all have your ideas written down, but I'm going to start off with the public and let them come up and speak first, and maybe we're on the same page, maybe we're not, but we can listen to what they have to say. Does anybody from the public have any comment on the budget? Or concerns? Just state your name and address for the record.
Andrew Vos, 35.
I think you gotta turn that on.
Andrew Vos, 35 Red Bond Court, Cranston. I'm the owner of 3 rental properties in Natick, so that's why I'm here, even though I live in Cranston, right over the line, off of Enfield. To answer your question, Mr. Manager, of what the tax rate's going to be, I can tell you right now it's going to be too high, no matter what, because of the revaluations. I've done a lot of math. And actually, I got one quick question. Regarding some of the questions on the actual budget by department, do I address that now, or are you going to go?
You can address it by department if you like, and then we're gonna go over the department.
Okay, but should I go down my list of questions, or are you going to do it by department?
Go ahead, you can go, you can
Okay.
give all your,
All right.
because I know you've been here for.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't know how the process was going to work. Okay. So anyway, back to my remarks here. I'm a hands-on landlord. I keep my places real nice. I am not a slumlord. I have nice tenants, and they cannot afford rent increases. Everyone says there's no affordable housing. There's no affordable housing because we have to keep raising rents in order to pay our property taxes and insurances and fire codes and lead laws, and it just doesn't stop. I I invested in these rental properties for my retirement. I'm a contractor, so I don't have, any kind of a pension. I pay my own stuff, my own health insurance, my own everything, like a lot of people do. So my investments were supposed to be my retirement, my kids' college fund. And just like no one else wants their pension touched, I don't want mine touched either. I understand there's going to be some increases here and there. I understand things go up. But based on some of the math I'm doing, based on my revaluations, based on a potential bird that said there was a potential for a 17% or 17, I forgot what it was. Last week it was mentioned about a change in the tax rate. That still skyrockets my property taxes on my buildings because the revaluations went up so high. So this is just unsustainable. I already sent out some rent increase letters. I've already got people telling me they're going to have to look for another place. They can't afford to stay there anymore. Last week when I was here, the gentleman from the senior services thing was saying that he's been getting a lot of people coming in that are getting evictions for non-payment of rent. This is why I can't hold the line. I can't absorb it anymore. So it gets passed on to the tenants who in turn can't pay it. Then we have to evict them. And then the landlords are always labeled the bad guys. But if we can't pay our mortgages, we get foreclosed on. So, I mean, it's a vicious cycle. So I have to live within a budget. I understand the town has a budget, but the departments have to try and, you guys, they're requesting the maximum 4% increase or 3.99. It just can't happen. We just don't have it. Not just me, all the taxpayers, everybody. We just don't have it. And I don't know if the residential rate is going to be different than the investment rate, but it's unsustainable. I mean, I'm literally going to have to start selling property. I just can't afford it anymore. I'm actually still paying back loans from the 2010 floods. I had all 3 buildings, 12 feet of water in them up to the first floor countertops. I had heating systems, electrical systems, everything. I'm still paying back loans to this day. I understand that's nobody's fault here, but it's just that there are other things into play just besides, taxes. The 4% increase, or 3.99, instead of shooting for the moon, why don't you go for the least amount of increase instead of the maximum increase? Like, why are you going to shoot? The state allows 4%. Why do we get to shoot for 4%? Why don't we shoot for 1%? Or level fund, if possible. I drive 2 trucks. Both of them are 2003, because I can't afford a 2019 or a 2015 truck and saddle myself with that kind of debt. We have to live within our means. So does the town. This is our money. You got to take our things into account here. 2 years ago, I had one of the buildings, fire code, between fire code and fire escapes, $18,000 for fire escapes, $15,000 on 2 different buildings, each building $15,000 for fire code. It's insane.
If you don't
Now,
mind
regarding-
asking, what addresses do you own?
9-11 River Street, 797 Providence Street, and 773, 779 Providence Street.
And on average, what was your increase on
Rents?
valuation?
Oh, valuation. They ranged between, they went up between 40, hold on one second because I have it right here. They went up between $45,000 and $89,000.
As far as 49 and 89, or 45 to 89, what percentage of the previous valuation did it go up?
I broke it down by numbers. I didn't break it down by the, oh, wait a minute, actually it did. One of the buildings, well, this is actually not an accurate number because I based it on the current tax rate, which is gonna end up going down. But if it was to stay at the current tax rate, one of the buildings went up 31.5%, the other
So-
one 46%, and the other one 41.5%.
So let's
Based
go,
on the current
let's
rate.
go on the $45,000 one.
Yep.
What was the previous valuation?
Yeah, you can't use the current rates.
No, you can't, well, not only that, I just
No,
wanna see.
but I redid them using the possible 17% reduction.
Yeah, but
They
don't
all
even go
st-
by that. Don't even go by that.
Okay.
Go by your previous valuation to your new valuation and the
Yep.
difference.
Okay, the difference was on one of them 44,800,
What was the valuation before?
142.7.
So 142,
Now it's 187.5.
and it was.
It's a 3-unit. And that one there is actually not one that I have a huge beef with, because I'm also appealing these to to Nerval. I already had my sit-down with them and submitted all my stuff. This one here is actually not too bad compared to others in the neighborhood that's pretty much average. My other ones, the 4 units, are out of control. Mine are much higher than all the others, and my whole thing to them was because I keep my place nice, I get penalized. You know, it's great to have a nice valuation, but not when it's coming out of my pocket all the time. Just because I am a hands-on landlord and maintain my properties and cut the lawn and sweep the sidewalks and plow and really, and make my places look presentable, I technically get penalized for that. Did you have another question? I'm sorry, I
No,
kind of
I
cut you
answered-
off. All right.
I'm just doing the math on it.
All right, so now, over to the budget, by the departments, I just have a few questions regarding some of the things. Town plan is on, that was on page 5. Just a couple of explanations. For fiscal 2019, the budget on the wages was $3,000, it was paid out at $6,200. Now, some of these are small numbers, it's just, I just want to clarify why the big discrepancies. But for the proposed budget, it's $55,471, an increase in $49,000.
Which one are we talking about here?
Town plan on page 5,
Okay.
on the wages.
Yep.
But just why the large increase going from 6,000 to 55,000?
That's because the CDBG, we brought that up last week.
All right, yeah,
CDBG
so a couple
used
of
to
things
have
that were
its-
mentioned I didn't understand, but I know I couldn't ask questions last week.
Yeah, so community development block grant, person who was a layman, so, her salary used to be in the CDBG fund,
Okay.
but we moved it over to the town plan. So it was somewhere in the budget before,
Okay.
it was just
All
a
right.
number that slid over.
All right, and that's why there was a few things that were mentioned that I didn't understand.
Yep.
That's why I'm here asking. All
Nope,
right.
I understand. You sat patiently for 2 full meetings.
The other one, I guess it's, this may be kind of on the same thing, but page 6, personnel. Proposed 2020 by the department was 0, and by the manager it was 22,000 this year, 80,000 this year, 22 last year. The other year, by the department, it was 0 and 58,000. What are the big differences there?
So the 22,000 is he's requesting a part-timer. I do have that in my notes here, so I'll
Okay.
probably be going over that in a little bit.
Okay.
The 58,000, can you explain, actually, the 58,000 to the 80,000 earning?
Yes, again, the current position is a part-time position. And the recommendation is to create the personnel director's position as a full-time position, and then a $22,000 part-time, non-benefited position to assist in that function. And if you look back on some of the prior years, in 17 and 18, it was about the same cost. So the town went to a part-time system and, for personnel, and I'm recommending it go back to a full-time position with a part-time clerical assistance.
So
Okay.
last budget, the council, majority of the council, it was I think it was 3-2, voted to move that position down to part-time. And over the past year, we gave it a shot, and what we've heard from our department heads and our town manager is that, that position needs to be at least full-time.
Okay, all right. And like I said, again, some of these are small numbers, but, I mean, I have to cram my budgets too, so that's why I'm asking, even though some of these are small, because it ends up adding up. On the town clerk, page 8, Actually, there's just basically a line item I have a question about, and it's, the copy machine is, it says budgeted 10,000, paid 3,900, and the proposed budget again is 10,000. Why a $6,039 difference? Like, what is 10,000 budgeted for a copy machine? Is that,
Go ahead, Marion.
I'm town clerk. What happens is we lease our copy machines. We have several of them for the public, they're workhorses. And we do monthly, and then every year annually, we do a whole maintenance fee, and that's at the end of the fiscal. So that will be probably about $8,000.
okay,
By the
so some
time-
of it's not shown
Then I
yet?
think in June, we get or May or June, we get the big
Okay.
annual maintenance.
And I understand this thing only went through like the end of February, so that's why some of these
Right,
numbers aren't
yeah,
shown yet.
right.
Okay, all right. Let's see. General government, page 14. On that one, I guess just trying to understand why such a large increase, $1.2 million increase, 10% of the budget. What does all that account, like, what is all that? Why so much in that one department?
That's gonna be a Kristen question.
The big portion of it is the retiree health, where we're going to have to do working rates so that we're properly funding our internal service fund for healthcare. That was $646,000 of it. The $286,000 of that was for pension, which is contractual increase, part of our pension valuation. We did go up $50,000 on severance pay because people are retiring left and right, and with contract negotiations, we could have more retirements, and we're already over budget as of February
Okay.
for that line. And a bump in the fund balance number for where we hope to cover some of the contractual obligations that get negotiated, and then the rest would go back into the fund balance.
Okay, all right, only because when I follow the lines across here, there's a lot of zeros that were paid out, that were budgeted, but nothing was paid out, and I know the year isn't over, the fiscal year, but like, there's a lot of blanks here, and then they're requesting the same or more.
Right, so the health entries get done at the end of the year.
Okay.
So we'll be transferring that money to the health fund.
Okay, all right. That's why I was wondering why there was such a large increase, but a bunch of zeros showing
Right,
up.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. There's a lot of manual work we do.
okay.
And Kristen, don't you have similar, on all departments, you see similar increases? It's just the bulk of it falls here to general
Yeah,
government, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. The next one is page 20, fire. And I got a few questions on this one. I know you guys kind of covered it last week, and I heard some of it. Don't know if I understood it all, but like, why is overtime 1/3 of the budget? I mean, overtime is 31% of wages. Then question is, what is the line items of sick and vacation buyback? What actually is that? If someone could give me a definition on what that actually is for.
So we'll go by the overtime first.
Okay.
Overtime is, they have minimum manning, 15 to a shift. Anybody on vacation, anybody on sick time, anybody on sick leave, anybody on LOA, they have to make sure that we have 15 men or women to a shift. So that's where a majority of the overtime comes from.
And I know you mentioned 2 weeks ago possibly looking into maybe upping the staffing to 1 or 2 people. That way there,
Well,
if
the
there's someone
last-
calling in, you don't have to pay overtime. You're gonna, someone, I don't know if it ever got done, but we're gonna look into the math to see if that would
So
save
what
some money.
happened, last council meeting, Chief Verone came up to the council here and proposed a grant that would pay for salaries, not the full salary, but 25% would be the town's responsibility, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I
for
do
the
remember,
first
I
year.
do remember hearing that,
So,
yep.
he's brought that before the council, so
Okay.
we're looking into it. We
Okay.
gave him the okay to move forward, we're waiting to see if we get the grant.
All right.
If we do, we do. That should, if, for the next 3 years, it should help the overtime, so
Okay,
we gotta.
but I know you had mentioned 2 weeks ago, possibly what if we would've upped the manning to like 2 people, and that way there, if
So,
someone called in, you'd still be at minimum
we had
manning without
17
having to
men
pay
to a
overtime.
shift, yeah, 17 men
I don't know
to
if
a
anyone
shift.
ever did the math, if that would work out or not.
Well, it would work out, but you're still gonna get your situations where a few people are on vacation, sick time,
Right,
whatever.
but it probably won't be as bad. I mean, this is a third of their budget.
Yeah, I got that written down, 31%.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
that here. And I-
All right, so the second thing is then, what actually is sick and vacation buyback?
Kristen, you wanna answer that one?
That's part of their contract, it's a contractual benefit in their contract where if they haven't used a certain amount of sick or vacation, they can put in a request to purchase that, so that would come out of their bank and they get that in a check.
All right, I'm not even gonna say anything. Then there's a line item for, I just wanna understand what it actually is for. I know the chief kind of explained it last week, but I didn't quite understand it. What is major needs? Because it's going from 0 to 10,000.
Chief, you can answer that?
Sure, that is, major needs are anything that come up in the course of the year, that, like a major expense that comes up during the course of the year. We've had a roof issue in one of the stations, had a generator problem, we've had, different problems that come up over the course of the year, that were unanticipated.
Okay.
So if that doesn't get spent, then that will go back into the.
All right, because that was that was one of my follow-up questions later, like any overages in the budgets that don't get used, what happens to that money on any of the departments?
Any overages at the end of the year goes into the general fund.
Okay.
according to
And
the-
meaning what, it gets carried to the following year, or
Actually, the
or does it
towns-
go back to the taxpayers?
No, it goes
of
into the
course.
general fund. Well, let me explain
No, I
something
know.
about the general fund.
Yeah.
We're supposed to keep, by law, or by board and charter, I'm sorry, we're supposed to be at 5% of the budget in our rainy day fund. We are not near that right now. At one time we were, but over the past 5 years, that is simply drained down to, we're up to almost $1 million right now, but we need to get that back over $2 million. And that's why anything that's extra at the end of the year, once we're back up, you're right. And in the following year, if we happen to see that there's an overage there, we could use it for other things. I'm a proponent of using it for one-time buys, like a major buy, like if we're gonna fix a roof, or, that it's gonna take, you fix a roof, it's 30 years. Why should we raise taxes to fix a roof? Because that's given us to us every year, when we could do a one-time hit
Okay.
off a major need
Yep.
in there. So that's something that we've done in the past.
Okay. Another line item on the flyer is supplies and expenses. It was budgeted for 50 as of the date of this proposed thing here. February, it's at 29.6. And then it's proposed now for 55,000. Just what is supplies and expenses?
Those are the, all the expenses that come up, office expenses, we've also paid for software bills and,
Okay. Yeah.
other bills that come up. That number is incorrect. I'll tell you right now, there's probably about under $10,000 left in that account right now.
Well, that was also,
So
a
that
while
is
ago.
All
Yeah.
those numbers are
Okay.
off. in
Okay.
that
So they're
February.
not incorrect, it's just that they're not up to date.
Okay.
They're only through February right now.
Okay. And then what actually is clothing allowance? Is that uniforms?
Yes.
Or-
So,
Okay.
It's, they pay the members and they go out, buy their own uniforms and maintain their uniforms is a thing.
All right, so that's the number for the entire department?
That's
that
number for the entire department.
Okay.
How
And then-
many men and women do you have in your department, chief?
There are 72, not including me.
And I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but I just want to confirm it. Longevity is after a certain amount of years, you get a bonus, or how does that?
Get along, it's part of their contract, they
Yeah,
do.
it's a step, it's
Okay.
like a step, and it goes up like every so many years, it goes up another 0.5%.
All right, and then what is holiday compared to overtime? Is there a separate, like holiday pay is different than
Holiday pay-
overtime?
Holiday pay, they get, like 8 hours of straight time, 10.5 hours of straight time, for working a holiday, or
Okay.
even if they're not,
All right, so it's a whole separate thing from overtime, then,
it's
the two aren't
totally
related?
separate, right,
Okay.
that's paid at straight time.
Okay. Okay. All right, so that was everything on fire. DPW, page 21. It's, going up a bit. Just wondering, I know the fiscal year isn't over again, but there's still, as of the date of this, there was a 29 budgeted, 984,000, up to date 600,000, so it's 384 still unused. Is that money going to be used this year? Does any,
For general
can you
wages?
foresee that? Let's see. Yes.
I
Is that
can't-
just because it hasn't been paid out because the year isn't over?
Well, I can't speak, well, again, you're at a half a year, and you're at 600,000, so 984, I imagine.
Okay,
You're gonna use that up in the next 3 months.
And then the reason it's increased for next year is due to raises and stuff? Or-
Possible contractual
Okay.
raises and whatever it may be, yeah.
All right. And what does higher class pay mean? Is that on the idea of longevity?
No, for instance, if, higher class pay, it depends on which department you're in. So let's just say the finance department. If the finance director's out, the deputy director gets higher class pay to cover their position while they're out. Same thing with the clerk's office. If the clerk is out, deputy clerk gets a higher class pay.
Okay.
It's based upon contract.
Okay. All right, and then sick bonus is the same as probably in the other line items, it's just, okay. Then one of the bigger things I had with DPW was the capital improvements request of almost $600,000. Last week, the gentleman that was talking about some lawnmowers and stuff, and possibly a truck, I don't know if I got all that information right, if we could just clarify that?
Yeah, that's not as high as you think it is. What page is capital on?
Yeah, that's on, let's see, page 31.
So what we approved for capital for DPW was $77,000.
Okay.
We cut,
So that
Out of that
599, that
597.
597 request is not gonna happen?
we
All
cut
right, because-
500. The
because
town
my-
manager actually cut 520 and brought
Okay.
it before the council.
All right. Because I was just trying to understand last week when they were talking about these lawnmowers at $25,000 and,
Two dump trucks at $340,000.
Yeah.
what's that?
Those have been cut.
Two dump trucks
Okay.
at $340,000.
That was a wish list, that was a.
Okay, well, that's what I was saying, because I'd love to be driving an F-350 2019 and I can't, so.
Cameras aren't working, Marion.
Okay, so that's capital, so that's down. All right. And this was talked about a little bit last week, but I didn't quite understand it. The street lighting, that's contracted by like a private company,
Prism.
but what is West Warwick's budget for it then?
125,000 if I remember correctly?
155.
How much, 155?
Yeah, but if
So,
it's,
when National Grid owned it, it was over $300,000, and the council a few years back went with Prism, which was all LED lighting, and that
Right.
was their contract, 155, or whatever it was.
oh, all right, okay.
And that's, so we've actually reduced that in the past. That's
Yeah,
why
no, I
the
just
buffer
didn't
was-
understand what it meant for, if it was being done by another company, I didn't know whether there was a budget item for it.
Well, we gotta pay them.
Pay them, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Let's see, almost done. Under building official, page 24, just a question, is there other properties that they are maintaining, paying all these? Why is there so many, like oil, it says $20,000 and,
That's this entire building.
oh, so that goes through the building department, all the expenses for that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's why I didn't know
They
if that
heat this
was,
entire building, they
Okay.
maintain this building.
that's why I didn't know if they had a separate building or something that this was for, but I thought I thought this maybe went through general government or something, okay.
So right now, well, between heating and oil and all that, that's, like I said, for the entire building. They have two maintenance people that
Okay.
maintain here, police department, and the youth center.
Okay, yeah, I just didn't understand what all that was. That's why I thought maybe they had a separate building somewhere we weren't seeing. Then a question regarding one of the departments, page 27, the housing board. I think you guys mentioned that it hasn't met in quite a while because there's not enough people on it or something, but what is the actual purpose of that board?
So the Board of Tenant Affairs, they actually get paid per meeting. It's like $25 per
Right,
meeting.
yeah, no, but what's the purpose of the,
So they meet to discuss what goes on at Clyde Towers, Robert Street.
okay,
They represent the tenants, so they're council appointed, and there is only
Is it-
one active person right now.
is it for seniors or is it for everybody?
It's for anybody who lives in those buildings.
Okay.
So those two buildings are not just senior
All right, so it's
restricted.
not for the general public?
No,
thing,
so
okay.
these individuals are appointed by the council.
Okay.
They represent Clyde Towers, Robert Street. They get paid $25 or $50 per meeting. But the reason why I asked about this was, there's only one active member right now that's still appointed, and his name is Joseph Machado. All the rest have resigned, and nobody's put their name back in for it. He's actively soliciting tenants on both buildings, but there seems to be no interest at this point.
Okay,
At this
and,
time.
yeah, because after hearing the gentleman who represents the senior center speak, I was like, sounds like he's already doing all that anyway,
Yeah.
and do we even need that?
Yeah, he doesn't represent either one of those buildings.
Okay,
And they have their issues, trust me.
okay.
But you can't get a quorum with only one person.
Yeah, they
on
can't,
there.
they can't
Right.
meet, so the
Right.
question is, are we gonna fill those positions, and do we cut the 4,800? That's.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
yeah, more or less, I was just
by
wondering what it
statute.
was.
Yeah.
You have to have this by statute, so.
Yep, okay, yeah, I was just wondering what it was more than anything else. I wasn't
Yeah.
questioning the amount on that.
Yeah,
Let's see. For Parks Department 29, page 29, what actually is Parks? Isn't that part of Public Works, or is that a whole separate thing?
Parks and Rec is separate.
Okay.
From majority of the year, there's 3 people. 2 people come over from DPW.
Okay.
During the spring, summer, fall months, and 1 person stays all year round.
Okay, so if they come over and why is there such a high overtime on that then?
Because of the only 3 people there.
Okay,
You take a look at your surrounding communities, and we're gonna probably talk about some of that later on. But you take a look at your surrounding communities, Warwick has, Coventry's close to $1 million, almost $1 million a year in their Parks and Rec department. Warwick, I know they have more fields, but they're almost $2.5 to $3 million in their Parks and Rec, and we're at 354. We as a council last year, and I think Councilman Licciardi was very vocal on hiring some more part-timers for the summer months to get the bike path, Our number 1 complaint is the bike path, the looks of the bike path. They do a great job on the fields, but we can't maintain certain areas of the town with only 3 people. It gets a little hectic, especially during the busy time of the months. Baseball starts up now, it's starting up now. Then you got soccer starting up, and then everything else. So you gotta maintain those fields so our children can play on them safely and
Yep.
whatever it may be.
okay,
So we are working on different things to reduce costs there or get more help there, but we gotta figure out how we're gonna do it.
okay, all right. That's basically everything I had questions on the departments. Again, I just want to kind of reiterate, that, there's a saturation point coming where we just can't pay anymore, and it's coming real fast. We just can't keep increasing 4% every year. It's unsustainable
And
for
that's why
the
I'm-
taxpayer, for
Well, that's
for
why I'm
us.
still waiting. I understand we're increasing the levy by 3.99%, but I'm still waiting to hear the growth numbers. I'm still waiting to hear the revaluation numbers. And we can only raise the levy by 4% legally.
Right.
That doesn't mean we have, now, if we have 2% growth over our levy, and I don't know the numbers, the most we can raise taxes is 2%. So I want to make that clear. Like, a lot of people just hear 4% and they think 4%.
No, and I
There's a
understand-
4%
no.
on our levy, but
Right,
it's
I
not a-
understand that. And based on what the tax rate gets reduced to, I mean, I did a lot of math. If the rate got cut in half, based on my new revaluations, I'd break even. So anything over a 50% reduction in the rate, my taxes are going up no matter what. So if we're only talking, 10, 15, 20%, that's not gonna, I'm still looking at a major increase no matter what. So that's all I can say is you gotta keep in mind that we just don't have it. The tenants can't afford to pay it. And if they can't afford to pay it, they're out on the street. And my places are empty and they get boarded up and sold, or foreclosed on, or whatever. I understand budgets go up, but it's gotta be within reason. We just can't pay it. Thank
I
you.
want to thank you for attending both
Absolutely.
meetings, and that's why you have the right to answer, ask any question you have here
No,
tonight.
thank you, thank
I
you.
hope we answered everything
Answer 'em.
for you.
Yep, thank you.
Obviously, you were very thoughtful and you were patient too, so thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm gonna be brief. I'll let
There's no budgets out there? There's no more out there.
Where's the pile? I put them out there and they were all gone.
All right, can we get some more?
I don't have, where did the pile of them go?
Paula had been taking them back there.
She took 2 to me that she came and got, but there's a pile. Let me see if I can find,
Hello, my name is Jeff Roser. I live at 19 Sweetwater Drive in Coventry, Rhode Island. I'm here tonight before you I own a few properties in West Warwick, and my wife owns a small business in West Warwick as well. I'm here specifically to talk about the assessed values versus the tax rate. I'm just gonna give you one example. I have an 8-unit on Providence Street in West Warwick, in Natick. It's in a flood zone. The new assessed value came in over $500,000. So my first question is, does anybody want to buy my 8-unit in Natick in a flood zone for over $500,000?
What was it prior to?
360 something, went up $152,000. If the current, I know we talked about tax rate is going to go down, but if it stayed the same,
No, 150, you're in trouble. But-
that building would go up
I'm gonna be honest with
that building will go up $6,000 in property taxes, that one building. That's insanity.
Have you gone through the appeal process?
Yes, I did, and if I don't get the right answer from then, I'll be back over here as well. I drove around West Warwick, I got all my comps, I got all my stuff, it's just outrageous. Now, I have other buildings too that went up, some went up 60,000, and so on and so forth. Like my brother-in-law Andy said, we understand that you guys have a big pension you're trying to fill, and you got obligations. I know you're mandated by state law to put so much into pensions and so on and so forth, but you can't keep passing it on to the landlords and small businesses that contribute taxes in this town and take care of their properties in this town. Like my brother-in-law said, we cannot pass it on to the tenants any longer. A lot of people have that mentality, oh, just raise your rents, just raise your rents. You can just raise your rents. We have tenants now that can't pay their rent. And we just can't absorb, like my brother-in-law said, we just can't absorb it anymore. It's getting to that point where it's you know, like I said, I don't have a pension. If you have a pension in the room, good for you. My buildings are my pension. Okay, this is what I do for my family. And every time the taxes keep going up, you're taking money out of my children's mouths. Okay, so I understand you have an obligation to take care of people, but take care of the people that are still currently in here, operating, paying taxes as well. We just can't take it anymore. So I don't know who determines the tax rate, but who does determine the tax rate? The town council?
Well,
Or?
it'll come from a recommendation between the assessor, the finance, and the town manager. We'll all work together on that, and they'll bring those numbers before us.
Okay.
And then we have to look at that. Now, I mean, there are ways to move things around, per se, which I think we've done in the past as far as multifamily, single-family. In one year, I think single-family saw a decrease in taxes, but the multifamilies, 3-family and higher, saw a 25% tax increase.
Yeah, I was a victim of that. Yeah,
And,
25% in 1 year, because you put the tax rate up to the equal with the 3 and 4s. Yeah, it's just, if I look at when I bought my property years ago, if I look at what I was paying property taxes then to now, it's astronomical. Again, I understand things go up. I understand that, again, as a town, we have an obligation to meet. I understand that. I'm not unreasonable. But the way they're going up now, it's outrageous. It's outrageous. So all I can say is just please keep in mind that when you're setting the tax rate, you know, property owners and small business owners in West Warwick.
And just remember, when we set the tax rate, West Warwick needs $100 million, I'm just gonna throw a quick number, $100 million to operate.
Mhm.
So that means for every person or every property that has taxes, we need $100 million. So if the valuation of these properties go up to whatever, let's say $2 billion, no matter what, we still need to collect $100 million. Not 110, not 92, $100 million. So, like, when people see valuations, and it does, it's usually 1/3 get a decrease, 1/3 stay the same, and 1/3 see an increase. That's usually how it happens. And there's years that it goes the opposite. You know, some of the people who saw increases 3 years ago might be seeing decreases this year because they were hit hard 3 years ago and then they reevaluated. I can use my single-family house as an example. You know, I was up 40% 3 years ago. I'm up 19% this year, so I'm below the average. So when the tax rate's set, I'm hoping that it offsets and goes to the right direction.
Right.
But again, just remember, we still need to collect $100 million. Now, if our town's worth $1 billion or $2 billion in valuation, we still need the same amount of tax. The tax rate goes by that. So if it's $1 billion or $2 billion, that tax rate's based upon that, so.
Okay.
And again, we haven't gotten the full, due to due to the appeals and everything else, we haven't solidified those numbers yet. And once we get, and I wish we can solidify them faster, so we can put people's minds at ease to understand what the tax rate's gonna be. And trust me, I understand, you're probably sitting up at night saying, how am I gonna do this? You know, I have one two-family here in West Warwick, I have one in Coventry. I sit there and I look at both towns, and I see an increase every single year also. And I ask, how am I gonna do it? And you know, you're right, I don't disagree with what either one of you said.
Right.
We gotta also figure out how we're gonna make it work also.
Right.
So the town doesn't end up, let's just put it this way, if the town ever goes bankrupt, if we don't maintain our pension fund, what's your property value at bankruptcy?
I understand.
You know, and that's what we wanna protect, we're trying to protect you in that aspect also.
I understand, there's a fine line, it's a balance, I understand, it's a juggling act, I understand. I'm just here as a face, as a landlord, a property owner, and a small business owner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing none, going to the council. If anybody has anything specific they wanna go over, bring it up now, I'll start with you, Councilman Licciardi.
Are we going by department, or are we going?
You can go by however. If you want, I'll tell you what,
Why don't we
if
do
we
it
make
that
this
way?
easiest, if I just go
Yeah.
page by page,
Yeah.
we say yes or
Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
so we'll go to page 4,
Dave,
town,
can I understand what happens from here? Just so we're gonna, this isn't the end-all and be-all necessarily, there's more.
so, for instance, if we're going through town manager and you say you don't want the town manager anymore, we wanna cut it down to
Thanks.
0.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Thank you. And majority of the council I could take a vote at that, and if it's 3-1, 3-2, 4-1, whatever it may be, 5-0, at the end of the page, I could say, does the council agree, and we can all vote on that whole page?
But does that mean that's set in stone?
Nope, we have one
Okay,
more public hearing, and we
exactly
can,
right.
we can
That's,
change.
I wanna make sure that expectations aren't that we walk out of here tonight with a,
Nope,
no,
because you might cut something now, and that,
right,
the town manager or department head might come to us and say, and try to resell it to us. But again, it's our decision, and they might not like us at the end of this meeting, who knows? And they might never talk to us again, but, this is something that, you know, we do on a yearly basis, and I know this is your first budget. So we can go page by page. Page 4, town manager. Does anybody have any issues with town manager?
You're safe, Ernie.
Just say, Ernie.
for now.
Yeah, not throwing off the island.
Town planner?
No, yeah, I would just reiterate the discussion about moving people around and whether, we talked about finding out if there are any implications, federal money with that CDBG position, so I just wanna put that out there.
Well, I think that position is, again, I look at this as wants, needs, and necessity. I think it's
That's a
one of the
need.
most necessary positions in town. I mean, you know, for the salary we're paying, you look at the Shippey Avenue project, how much, I wasn't
How much
following that.
CDBG did you get for Shippey Ave?
It was 700,000, right?
I'm not suggesting, I just.
No, well, what happens is, when we apply for the CDBG grants, it's not as simple as just applying for them and
Right.
getting them.
Well,
Somebody has to
Absolutely.
administer them.
It wasn't
also.
700, it wasn't, no, 500,000 was actually from the road bond money,
Yeah.
so then the remainder was from the grant,
Which was
700, that was 700,000.
700,000.
You were at 1.2
million.
million
Oh, yeah,
dollars.
700.
we would dispute the.
There was also.
No,
two-
I'm not just, no, I think
I
it's,
don't dispute the value, it just, the landscape, and are we violating anything? That's all.
Well,
By not having her own department, or having it with the
The
planner?
fact that, I think the game plan was that she was gonna be doing that position, I don't know if it's, I hate to put names to it.
If-
Um,
if it were a fully funded federal position, and then the position was asked, the person in position was asked to do non-federally funded activities.
Correct.
That could be an issue, but at this point, the amount that could be coming in, would be coming in is much less, will be less than what the person's being paid. So therefore, there's ability to have other types of work being done.
And we don't know, and even though it has a salary in there, we still don't know what the actual fund will get back, so that
Will offset.
Yep.
it'll actually
Will
offset.
offset,
Yeah,
yes.
so you'll actually,
Yep.
you should see somewhat of a small surplus in the town planners at the end of 2019, should. Personnel department? I have an
What are your
issue here.
thoughts
So-
on that position?
Based upon everything that's happened over the past week, based upon what I've seen over the past week, and I personally think that, you know, that we maybe get rid of the part-time position temporarily and see, I personally think, and I don't know how to say this publicly, but I think,
Be careful.
I know. Department head, I think that's a department, if we have somebody in there full-time, that they should be able to run that department on their own. I'm still leery on the part-timer. So, I mean, personally, my
The new position?
the new, well, it's the old, but back to new. It was cut in 2019.
So Tim, is that prudent
As far as,
if we eliminated the part-time position?
well, right
Not sure
now,
what you've seen in the last week.
You know?
No.
No.
Okay, go
Me
ahead.
neither.
Huh?
Me neither.
I hope I sent it via email. Let me make sure it's not stuck in my outbox.
well, hold on, before you get into that, let's,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
my suggestion is.
Doesn't matter, right now, we don't.
Right, right.
Let's not
Plus,
do
it's
it right
there's
now.
there's a personnel issue,
Right.
but you can go forward discussing the line items and as part of human resources and personnel as a general topic. Just don't raise issues pertaining to any specific employees.
Stuck.
We're not talking about employees, talking about
So-
positions.
Listen, just.
Positions that are in front of us, correct?
Just talk about the issue of the department, and I think the manager could probably guide you a little better as far as, or a little more succinctly as far as what the position is gonna be, whether it's full-time or part-time.
Well, I'm just selling my case here. We had a part-timer in there. Yes, things fell. We had a part-time department head, per se, 27 hours a week. Things did fall behind. I don't disagree that possibly bringing that up to full-time, but I don't see another part-timer having to go in there along with the full-time. I think we can increase it, but not with the part-timer also. That's just my opinion. That's up to you as a council.
I'd say something, you-
I'm not sure we have enough information right now, so why don't we,
I think the issue's gonna come down to, do you wanna fund it for a full-time position right now or for a part-time? Or do you
In
want?
here, it's
or-
No,
it's a
it's
full
both.
and a part-time.
Right, so there's two
I-
separate
Yes.
positions
I
we're talking
understand,
about.
I understand that. So as far as an FTE, it'd be 1.5. Is that correct, Mr. Manager?
not quite.
Yeah.
Yes, a little under, it'd be,
19 hours.
it'd be under 20 hours,
Right.
so it'd be a non-benefited position.
Right, so I mean, if you're gonna start with the gross, the question is, does the council approve the 1.5 or 1 whatever? Or do you just wanna go with 1, or do you just wanna go with a half? So that's, I mean, you got 3 options as to how you wanna handle it.
I told you what I wanted.
I'm still not convinced that we haven't, when we went from a full-time position last year to a part-time position, we still haven't gone a full cycle for a year with that part-time position, I think, to make a true judgment.
and I tell you, I voted the
So,
same as you
I-
last year to lower. I only can speak to what the department heads have said to me, since then. I mean, but I would agree with you last year. I agreed on bringing it down.
As I stated a couple times, the manager is specifically asking for the time back. He sees it as a full-time position, he sees it requiring someone filling the position full-time, is that correct?
Full-time plus.
Yes, well,
Well-
if you look at it in a general sense, the general government is a corporation of $42 million. And of that, we have a little under 200 employees. Any company like that would have a personnel department, would have at least 2 or more. We don't. And because of that, I think that there are needs that could be met that are not. So again, if you look at it in that standpoint or that perspective, company that size, part-time person, how would a private business run? Could a private business run like that? In my opinion, no, and that's why the recommendation is before you.
And Ernie, let me ask you this much. Prior to hiring a director, if I remember correctly, there was only one person doing that job prior to anybody coming here. It was done that way for years, and it wasn't a director. It doesn't have to be a director. The only gripe I ever had in that position, and I still stick by it, is that HR should be out of the union. That's the only gripe. Not the person, not anything. The position should be non-union. And again, I'm still leery, why does you have to have a director over one? A director, why can't we do it with a HR person, a very highly qualified HR person, and report to you? As you'd be, the town manager was always overseeing HR, but we always had an HR clerk in place. And like I said, I think my biggest gripe over the years was it was a union position and should be out of the union. Other than that, I personally think we can fund that position with a full-time, qualified person that's doing their job. And if they're not doing their job, they should be held accountable. And if you're held accountable and you're not doing your job, you'll be out the door. And I think if you have one full-time, qualified person that can run this town, this office, that's just my opinion. It was done before with a qualified person that did their job. The only gripe anybody had was it was in the union. And that's my only gripe here is, it's out of the union now, why can't it be done with one person again? And it used to be done at $50-something thousand, not at $80,000. So that's my gripe.
Well,
And I've been a proponent of HR for years.
What I would say is, if you look at the responsibilities that any organization has, reporting at state level, federal level, making sure that all the regulations, laws are being done. Certainly there is the aspect of you really have to have a person that understands the functions, crosses the I's and crosses the T's, dots the I's in triplicate. I mean, it is very essential that type of work be done. And then I go back to, again, if we were a larger organization, what would we have? We would have more than that. I know now that workflow is coming into the manager's office, and at that point, that takes away my time to do other things. Am I behind in a lot of things? Yes. Behind in a lot of things because I can't get to them. I'm behind in personnel issues. There's personnel issues that I don't know. I have to look and try to find and research. So it does take time away from the manager's work that needs to be done.
I think you're in that position because there's nobody here in that position right now. And I think if, like I said, a person who's here 35 hours a week doing the job, I think will be fine. Right now, you have somebody here part-time that you can bring in on occasion, as you sent off an email to us a couple weeks ago. And I understand, that's gonna back you up and backlog you because you're gonna have employee issues. But again, I'm one guy, I'm one person.
So
I'm
I
just
think,
throwing it out
is
there.
what I'm hearing that most of us agree that bumping that back to a full-time seems reasonable based on the request, but the 19-hour is something that we're debating?
I would
just
agree
wanna
with that.
clarify it.
I would agree with that. And then next budget season, if that department's overtaxed, then consider maybe a part-time.
I just think taking a leap and putting back to full-time and a part-timer without having solid numbers, and as Councilman Licciardi said, they cut it back to part-time last year, and yes, the first 3 months or 4 months, we're taxing, the department heads have shared that with us, but I think going back to full-time is reasonable, but having a part-timer in there right now is unreasonable. That's just my thoughts.
I agree with that.
Jay,
I don't.
you don't agree?
I don't. But, I mean, it's up to you
What
guys.
do you wanna do?
I still think we should go another year with a part-time position.
There's, you have to consider the human resources director as almost a protector of the town. There's so many federal guidelines out there that aren't being met. There's FMLA, there's the Affordable Care Act, there's COBRA laws. There are all of these things that need to be met, and they're not being met. And we need someone who's going to protect the town and protect the employees.
Why aren't they being met, though?
I don't know if there's just not enough time, or, they're just, this person needs to be able to handle a big volume of work. is a big responsibility. And in my previous experience in searching for an HR person, you really want to look for someone who has these certifications, who is experienced in federal and state and local government laws. You want to make sure you have someone that is here to protect the town. It's an important position.
And I'm not complaining about that I mean, I'm really not. I mean, if, right now, I made a recommendation to cut the part-timer. Councilman Chardy's recommending we stay part-time all around. You know, it's up to the council.
I support the full-timer and cutting the part-time.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Mary Beth?
I would support that too, or go another way and say, Ernie, you have $80,000, spend it as you see fit. I mean, maybe that is a part-time HR director and a part-time assistant or whatever, I don't,
Well, the idea is you have to be competitive, and so if you want someone who's really good,
Well, ladies
but
and
that'd
gentlemen,
be his problem.
I'll tell you right now, I don't know what an HR director gets, but if I'm working 27 hours a week and getting paid almost $60,000, I'd take the job if I was qualified. Just throwing that out there. I mean, 27 hours a week.
Now, we're calling this HR. Is there a difference between an HR director and a
Personnel.
personnel director?
That's it. Human resources, personnel. So right now, I think the consensus is to cut the part-timer, $22,000. Again, Ernie, we can change that later on if we decide to.
Are you gonna vote now, or are you gonna readdress?
I think the
all of
consensus was 4-1.
these? Okay.
Town council. We did say we're gonna put a line item in for, did you get that changed last time? It was $2,000 for advertisement?
Right, so when we adopt the budget and I post it, I can divide out that line.
But it's not adding to it, it's taking it out of the supplies.
Correct.
I actually put into, and this is up to you guys, but as a council, but to reduce that $10,000 in nonprofit contribution to $7,500. And this is, just my reasoning behind it would be $1,200 in advertisements, $300 for a book award, that brings it to $1,500.
Well, we took it out of supplies and expenses, not out of the nonprofit organization.
So okay.
So you're saying,
So I went for the nonprofit, for a max per group for a nonprofit that we would donate, sponsor, whatever you want to call it. I had it at $1,500. And just, I would say go quarterly. Could be all in the same quarter, could be all 4 different quarters, which would bring it to $6,000, which would be $7,500.
So what I had written down here in notes, Jay, was 5,000 from, it went from 7,000 to 5,000, and then I put advertising / scholarships to 2,000.
yeah, but I think what Jay's saying is that the contribution nonprofit line should be reduced as well,
Yeah, I think so.
so.
Not that we don't want to help anybody. You know, I think we do quite a bit, and we give a lot to a lot of different organizations. But, again, I'm trying to nickel and dime this a little bit, because I agree with the gentleman that came up here, and a 3.9% tax increase is just, people can't afford it. I mean, they've told me, I'm not looking to go to zero, you know, obviously, you know, we can never do that, but people call me and they say, what do I do? Just like the gentleman was saying. You know, and these are older people. These are people in their 70s and 80s saying, I've grown up here all my life, and I can't pay my bills. What do I do? I don't have an answer. So, I mean, I'm looking to reduce even little by little, you know, with the understanding that we are a town and we still need to run, but.
so it would be on average $100 per month for an advertisement that we would give away.
Correct.
And what was the book award?
I brought this up at the last.
Why is it $300?
And I
I
think
just-
that's still up for discussion.
Yes, but I was just talking in round numbers, you know, to get that 1,200 plus the 300.
So, like I said, what I did is I put the 2,000 in, so we can, and then that gives you later on, when, if the budget passes, you can come before the council and say, I like to offer a scholarship or a book award up at the high school for $300 or $350, whatever it may be. It's just a dollar amount, and like I said, I advertise in scholarships. That's all I have it under. It's up to you if that's, but again, our budget stayed the same. We didn't increase or decrease our budget. And it stayed at 54,000. It just came from the line item supplies and expenses. The Sunshine Fund, again, that, just a lot of people ask about that. That's to cover, on behalf of the council, if an employee or whatever loses a family member, or whatever, we send flowers on behalf of the council, on behalf of the town, or a fruit basket to the family. That's where that is. So we maintain 2,500, but it's not that we use it, you know, we hope not to use it actually, but I mean, in 2018, we did use $1,700 of it, and the prices of stuff is going up, so we still maintain that 2,500. Somebody did ask me what the Sunshine Fund was. It's actually a family member. Is anybody all set with the council budget? If we have any concerns, we can bring it up next time. Town clerk? Any issues with town clerk? Board of canvassers? That is what it is. Legal? Anybody have any issues with legal? Probate? Any issues with probate? If there's no issues, Kristen, we're thinking it's 5-0, so.
Okay, I'm keeping track of any of the changes, and then if there's a vote when it changes, if we're going by it.
If there's no issues, we're gonna take it as 5-0. If there's issues, we'll take a
All right.
vote. EMA? Town sergeant? Is he here tonight?
There he is.
You're lucky, because we're gonna cut you. General government. I have a few things highlighted here. OPEB, I just had it highlighted for some reason. Just keep an eye on that. And I don't know why I have 700K written down here. It doesn't have a note. Oh, for retirees? That's the increase? Yeah. Any issues with general government? Finance? Nothing highlighted. Tax collector? Tax assessor? I just want to go ahead, Counsel.
Well, I was just gonna say, we had talked about a possible raise, for, what's that position, I'm sorry? Is that professional services?
I think it's on the, is that
Yeah.
professional services?
Professional services, right? I just had questions, you know, where's Sal? I just had questions regarding the time again. I was trying to work out how much he's already making per hour. So he's working essentially 2 days a week for 4 hours at a time, or less? At $160 combined?
When he first started working, I believe he was under the impression that he could only work 75 days a year because he had retired from the same position in the city of Cranston. And the state law on retirement says you can only work 75 days. But West Warwick is not in the state pension system, so he's not limited to that.
He's a sub-state? Because I've requested,
No, he gets paid for payroll.
because I've requested his contract, his agreement. I'd like to see that
Yeah,
at some point.
he was away. I did some texting with him today. He remembers signing some kind of paper when he first started working here with Tracy 11 years ago. I wasn't here. at that time, so I don't know what he signed or what it was. But I think it was $160 a day
Which works out to be $20 an hour.
for 75 days, which is 20
So is he
$20
working
an
4
hour.
hours a day or 3 hours a day?
He works, he's
Or
here
3.5.
from 8 to 12. He could work 4 hours. Some days he stays till 1 or 2, depending on, he works 75 days is what it comes out to, depending on what time of the year we are and when we need him in the
So
office.
the question has come up, you know, he used to be responsible for printing the forms, for labeling them, mailing them, sending them out and all that, which used to take up many days of his time.
Right, now he's
Now
free.
now we go to printing ABS, and
We're saving money and he's
we're
able to
saving
put
money,
more
but he's not
time.
cutting his, but he's not cutting his days.
No, he's able to put more time into putting the proper value on the businesses or going out and finding businesses, instead of having to sit behind the desk and doing paperwork.
Is there, like some sort of list kept of the businesses that he is finding? Because I thought the clerk's office did most of that.
We work with.
No,
Yeah.
they
Work together.
issue licenses.
Yeah, but when they
We-
issue the
we assess them.
licenses,
Shouldn't that,
It
does that
comes from
trigger?
him.
Sometimes we tell them they need a license. We assess them, and then they don't know that they need a license. Or sometimes they get the license, and then they'll pop them over to our office.
So, all right, maybe I'm misunderstanding the procedure. I don't know. When somebody applies for a business license, they do it at the clerk's office, correct? That goes where?
It has to go to fire, building, assessor, tax collector, and then we bring in the money and then we get the okays from each department. And, I don't think we work with Tony as much on that because we're already licensing them. What Tony does is go out and look for businesses that aren't licensed, I think, and tells Paul.
so.
We don't, I mean, the licensing part, I don't think
So,
matters to us.
so-
Right.
We want to assess them.
The concern part I have, you know, first of all, is the raise increase. But the other question that was brought up, and I thought about it afterwards, was, and you hit the nail, you said he's been here 11 years. So how many businesses are out there that aren't assessed, or how many things out there aren't assessed? If you've done a job for 11 years and you've done it thorough, and you're working 75 days a year, yes, it's part-time, but I think by year 5, you got the town covered. It's not like we have thousands of businesses coming in
No,
here.
we have around approximately 800 businesses in the city, but it's not a static 800. I bet we probably have 200 or 300 businesses that
But once they're-
constantly change.
But what I'm saying is, once they're assessed, and you're right, like, for instance, if I change something on my house, he doesn't come out and assess that, you do, correct?
On a house.
So, for instance, if I put a new deck on my house, Tony doesn't come out and look at it, you come out and assess it.
I do, yes,
You go by the building permits and you come out.
right.
A new business comes to town, Tony goes out and assesses every single one. Like, for instance, we sit here and approve hundreds of licenses a month. Does he go out and assess every single one of them properties, or new licenses? What does he do?
Yes.
Or does he figure it out from behind the desk
No,
and
well,
say,
he'll make a physical visit along with phone calls and paperwork. Sometimes it's a business, it's a vendor, so they're not going to be, they're in a location, but someone is leasing something from a vendor. You know, like we lease copy machines. So we assess that company that leases them to us. So he sets up all the paperwork to send out to the company so they can report back to us. Besides us, who else are they leasing equipment to in the city or in the town? You have businesses that constantly are moving in and out all year long. They bring new stuff in with them, the old stuff goes out. We had the case a month ago with the pizza place right next door over here.
friendly guys?
The Friendly, where the guy was throwing everything out and everything in, and so now all new stuff is going in. Is the person going to report? We don't know. They're supposed to, but if they're not, it's up to
Well,
us to.
And that's my concern. So, for instance, we know there's gonna be a new restaurant there. We know it's all new. We send them a form and say, report. Do we just key what they reported, or do we go down and
No,
verify?
Yes, we do.
And my question is, and, you know, don't take this the wrong way, but if you tell me I'm getting $12,042, and that's my budget, and I'm sitting here saying to myself, now I'm a human being, I'm gonna come in my 75 days and get that $12,042. But I'm not gonna be the guy to say, you know what, I'm gonna save the town $2,000 and not come in 10 days. You know, he's gonna guarantee himself, even though is he creating himself 75 days worth of work, or does he have 50 days of worth of work? That's my question.
Last year, I think he left, I want to say, it was under 5 days he left on the table last year. He didn't get paid for last year out of that total. And he's here consistently, I mean, he's been
So I
doing,
can
he's
be
been
here
doing it for
consistently.
50 years.
I'm here consistently, I might not be doing a damn thing.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
no, well,
I come
no,
in here
he's-
every day.
Yeah. no.
I'm
He-
just,
He
you know, I'm
knows
not
what
saying
he's
he is or
doing.
isn't.
I've worked with him, he's been doing it for 50 years, this is all he's done.
Yep.
So he knows it. It may not seem like he's doing anything, but when you've been doing it for that long, you know all the ins and outs, you know what people are hiding, you know when people are over-reporting, so, I mean, I just think he's a benefit to the town by having it. Because if he's not, and the reason for the increase is he hasn't had one in 11 years.
So-
Neither is the
There
council.
have been increases to other employees in the town over the 11 years.
Sal, what's, like, rough percentage is he out in the community?
Oh, actually out,
This would be during the 8 hours a week, correct?
during his entire
75
75 days,
So
I would say at
essentially-
least half.
But he
So
breaks that up.
50%.
If he has an 8-hour shift, he breaks it up into 2 4-hour shifts in the course of a week. He's out during those 4-hour shifts?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
At certain times of year, he's out more than others.
So he's.
Because, you know, like during the winter, spring, he needs to spend more time in the office because that's when all the paperwork is coming down. Fall, late fall, winter, you know, like around that Christmas time, that's when we go out to make sure the businesses are still there.
How long, when a new business comes in, how long does it take before we go out there? Is there some estimate? How much-
No,
so-
no,
so-
he'll
so-
u-
so it could
usually
be 6
start
mo-
do-
So it could be 6 months?
He'll do
or-
a couple of tours, so he'll usually make one after all the bills are going out. So probably like August, he'll do a tour, see if anything new's coming in. Then he'll do another one Christmas time, New Year's time, to see if they're still there. Because if they're not in on December 31st, we're not allowed to assess
But if I
them.
was a new business and I came in like now, though?
If you
Like,
came
for
in
ins-
today,
Yeah.
well, you wouldn't be on the tax rolls until 2020. So
you
we
wouldn't
wouldn't
go out
come
until
out to
after.
see you until the end of the year. He'd probably get something from the clerk on a license. If not, he would alert them to the fact.
But he's currently paid somewhere around $20 an hour,
Yes.
is that correct?
Yes.
The amount, that line is 12,042, but includes some printer maintenance and another contract. The amount budgeted for him is 11,700.
Right. Which came out to like
11.7, what was it last year for him?
The line was
It shows 10.742, but if there's other items in there, I'd like to know what he was budgeted.
753 minus 750. I would say 11,400.
Well, adopted was 10.7 for 2019.
Oh, sorry.
For 2018, it was 11.753 was the actual, but I don't know.
Sorry, I was looking at the line above it. I think it was 10,600, if I remember correctly.
So we're talking $1,100?
I believe so, yeah.
about 143-ish, I think.
Yeah.
I'd recommend keeping the salary the same, but
I would agree.
you can. I mean, it's $1,100, but I'm beating you up over 1,100, like a punching bag over here, but.
75 days and $10 a day.
But those guys can't say I didn't do my due diligence over $1,100. It's up to the council, I'm just throwing it out there. Jay?
I still have questions. We have a floater in the department. I'm sorry, a floater in the department.
clerk floater.
Clerk, yes. You know,
Between, yeah, us and inspection.
right, but she's basically half the week, correct?
Half the day.
It's supposed to be half day inspection, half day in our office.
All right, so half a day every day. Can she help with this? Does she help with this? Or he help with this? Does the position help with this?
Does her position help? No. He does pretty much everything
Okay,
for that.
all right.
Any other questions, Jay?
No.
Mary Beth? So what's your thoughts on the salary?
I mean, I'm not looking at an increase.
Yeah, I'd leave it.
I,
I wouldn't increase it either.
John?
It's reasonable at $20 an hour.
Jay?
Leave it as well.
Leave the salary as adopted last year.
Subtract out minus 1,100.
Anything else in the tax assessor?
Did we have conversations about, in Sal, you could answer these, possible cuts for the conferences and travel and memberships?
Oh, yeah.
Colleges, so I have 710 versus the 3640.
I didn't have any, I didn't have any problem with it. Some of the staff thought that they should leave some of it in. They hadn't used it in a couple of years. I'm not a big conference person myself.
But is your staff gonna use it, is the question?
They haven't used it in a couple of years, but they have used it previous to that.
will they use it for 2020? Is that, because if they're
That's
gonna,
the question.
if people are gonna
It's
use
there.
it, then, you know, for education and, you know, that's one thing. If it's not gonna be used, then
Yeah, I mean,
don't put it in.
was, I think if we leave the money there for
Why
the
did we-
classes,
Why did we have a number, I don't mean to interrupt, but for the membership, why did we have a number of 710? Like, I have that in my notes. Where did that number come from?
I think you mentioned those were like the local
Was
conferences,
that the
correct?
local
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah.
yeah, that I think we were gonna keep, and then the other one
Right,
was gonna,
that's
we
what I
gotta go.
thought, that's what I have in my notes as well.
Yeah.
There are classes that sound
You just have to come up to them.
And has a little more institutional information on the office.
There are classes that are held out of state that were paid for underneath that classification, that you cannot take here locally.
So, do you or the floater plan on taking those classes?
I have been taking them. The last year and a half, I haven't had the opportunity to go, but I would still like to continue to go.
Where are they?
Pardon?
Are they all over the country or here in New England? Or?
They're all over. I've been, like Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, locally like that. I mean, I'm not looking to go to Ohio or Arkansas or any place like that, but
Is there one being offered in 2020? Are they offered every year?
they offer them every month in various parts of the 50 states.
Okay.
And how much does that usually cost, Dan?
It depends. Generally, the class is like $500, but then you have to stay for the week. So under that conference and travel, that's where that 1,000+ expense was put in.
So you're not talking just to go up for the day and come back?
No, the class is
This
a full week.
class, not a conference?
Right, it's a full week class. And that budget expense also included the materials, the books, and everything for the class.
Ernie, you have the same amount, so you saw value in that? I mean, obviously there's value in it, I don't want any grading.
Well, yeah, I do know there are required classes that certain fields have to take. A tax assessor has to have certain classes. I know there are certifications I believe they have to have, and so those type of training is important. Usually what Ann's saying is like a regional, training, regional conferences. So whether that number can be reduced, it probably could, but leave something in there for the ability to go and, further that type of training.
So Kristen, what do you have in that 3640?
So we have
Thank you, Ann.
$75 for 3 Rhode Island Assessor Association meetings, one at $60. There's an I guess, IAAO conference for 500, room and board and airfare, 750 and 500, transportation, 100. Deputy education classes, 400, deputy lodging, 1,080, and gas for office vehicle, 175.
Council's thoughts? Jay?
If it's gonna be used, I mean, just what does a class cost?
The-
What
well,
was
the
a
pa-
week-long
the-
cost?
The past couple of years, the classes usually go for $400 or $500, and that's as a member. They charge like $600-700 to non-members, people like our appraisers and things.
So it sounds
The
like
pa-
1100.
the past couple of years, you've
Could 1100
been-
cover that?
No.
No, room and
No,
board.
No, the 1100 plus the 710. Could
Yeah.
1810 cover that?
Yeah.
Wait, is that right? No, it couldn't.
No?
How could it? With the airfare, with the,
I'm asking. I don't think you take airfare to Vermont. No, that's what I'm saying.
Right. We need the airfare because
If
it's
you're flying to
regional.
Vermont,
Yeah.
New Hampshire, we gotta question
So if
that.
you- Over the past couple of years, there hasn't been an assessor here. I mean, I've been here for a year and
so
a
let's
half now,
assume they
but
drive to Vermont, is that like $700 we can cut? What was the airfare, Kristen?
The airfare was 500. There's two separate lodgings, there's one for 750 and one for 1,080. One is the deputy lodging, so I guess that would be for if Ann went. And then one for, it just says room, 750, so would that be if you went?
yes,
Okay. So, are you planning on attending?
no.
So with 2,000 in
So-
this, with $2,000, a round number, cover it?
Hold on one second.
And will 2,000, he's looking back at you, would 2,000 cover that line item?
Right, so if we,
For the education
Conference
Conference
travel.
travel.
or just the class?
Both, all.
I would
How
say,
about the conference, what about the IAAO conference?
I'm not going. I don't do conferences, so.
So I would say yes.
yeah.
so if we
Yes.
we reduce that to from 3,640 to 2,000?
3640 to 2,000? Jay?
Go down by 6.
It's reasonable.
Mary Beth?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jay?
Yeah.
And I'll vote yes. Tax assessor all set?
And the memberships, is that,
Yeah, we had that question
we had that
too.
question too.
That's it, those we use.
That you use?
There's like 3 of them, IAO and RAO.
Well, the last 2 years was 540
yeah,
and
yeah.
425, 455 through February, and you have it at 1430.
There's $1,000 in there for books, class expenses for books.
Okay,
Books, yeah.
okay.
We're gonna get, we are gonna get the books, right?
Yes, yeah.
Anything else for tax assessor? Board of Assessment Review? Police? The only thing I have highlighted here is IT expenses, but I think we questioned all that during budget time. That's why I highlighted it. Anybody have any issues with police department? They got guns. Fire?
So with fire, is capital budget separate from this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll do that separately?
Yep.
Okay.
Again, we're hoping to address overtime if we get that grant, so. DPW. I'm making a suggestion from here from DPW, but it's actually 2 departments. It'd be building official and Department of Public Works. We talked about the maintenance department, and I know this is probably contractual, but it's something we could talk about. I think if we can go down to 1 maintenance person for the buildings and then move 1 person down, I'm not looking to cut a position, I'm looking to move more help down to DPW. That's just my opinion, that we cut down, and we could probably get there when we get to building official, because he has his 2 maintenance employees in there. And I'm looking to cut down to 1 maintenance employee for the 3 buildings and move that person down to DPW.
Mario is he's in the police budget.
Okay, so now we're looking at 3 different budgets. So we'll go back to police real quick. I think one, and Councilman D'Amico brought up, that, cleaning this building, that building, 37 hours a week, 2 people. We're just wondering why, you know, could it be done with 1 person and move that manpower to somewhere that needs it also throughout the year, you know, so that's just my opinion. I'm just throwing it out there.
I agree. I mean, if we could, you know, put the time somewhere else, somewhere where it could benefit, then maybe that makes more sense.
I think that makes sense. That doesn't change the dollars.
Doesn't change the dollars whatsoever. Well, it changes dollars in budgets.
It shifts it, but it's, bottom line overall stays the same.
If we left the budgets alone, couldn't we just incorporate a 4th department, say, the two maintenance people would do the 3 buildings plus help with DPW? That way, if there's not a need there.
I think it's contractual, so based upon their job description, probably not. You'd have to do a shift, or through negotiation of some sort.
I would agree that's something
All
that
right.
should be explored, but it's not part of the budget process. It's-
Right,
it's-
right.
So it doesn't change the money, I just thrown it
Okay.
out there, so we'll keep the budgets the same. Town engineer? It's pretty easy. Street lighting, that's contractual. Building official. Again, I just brought up my concern with building official versus if Mario's in the police. If that, we have 1 in the police department, 1 in building,
Correct.
so we can look at that. Zoning, any issues? Senior center, any issues? Housing board, as of right now, we have to keep that 4,800 in case we do fulfill that board. So I don't think we should change that.
And then have a discussion as to whether, we do it by
Yeah.
statute. Yep.
Library, any issues?
Now, are we increasing the library salaries again this year?
He has
Is
it as,
that the
he has it
proposal?
as an increase for negotiations, yes, of $12,000 for a total of, I think, 8 employees, 6 full-time employees.
With 3%.
So he does have it in there.
You know, I agree that the staff, of the library is seriously underpaid. There's no question.
For his
I get it.
college education to make
No,
$30,000.
it's master's degree. I get it,
I
I get it.
understand.
But we gave,
Lowest in the state.
we were low everywhere though. You know, we gave 15,000 last year. I still think, I'm not for it. There's no disrespect to the librarians or their schooling. But again, I'm looking to cut somewhere at some point. And I'm not for the 12,000 this year.
The only concern I have with that is we're looking at an increase in salaries for DPW, looking for an increase of salaries for fire,
But we don't know what they are yet.
right? No, but they're built into this budget, if you look
Right.
at them, they're built into this budget, okay? So I would hate to
Well,
discriminate
but
against the
well,
library.
they're not built, they're not really built in, those are in a separate line item with the,
Right.
right?
Yeah, what you're going to see is for the budget's current staffing, and it could be longevity shifts or staff shifts, things of that nature. So the salaries are as they are now without any type of contractual changes.
So if I go to the Department of Public Works and we adopted 984 last
We're
year,
not voting on rates. Like, this is built into
So
the contract.
what we adopted last year was before we went into the wage reopeners.
Yep.
So then during the year, we went into the wage reopeners that took effect. So now those wage reopeners are in, or that were negotiated and given, are in the budget proposed 2020.
all right, my fault.
I didn't catch that, I'm sorry.
Like, we wouldn't be voting for a raise at this point. This is voting.
That's what this is, no, because in here, for any raises that may happen from the
From the
negotiations
contract.
is not in here, that's set aside in the
Well, ladies
rainy
and
day
gentlemen,
fund, correct?
We have
In the
nothing to
general
do with the
government.
library.
Right, the library.
We have
really just
zero to do with their
appropriation.
contract, we have zero to do with anything there but funding them.
So is the salary increase part of the contract that's mandatory, or is it
They haven't
an
negotiated.
We're
extra?
still negotiating, basically, they get an appropriation, we break it down so that when we report to the state, we have the detailed report to the state. But they're requesting a 33,347,000 increase in their appropriation over last year. Now, you can go in and look at it and decide where you wanna whittle that increase down, if that's what you so choose,
So we can affect this increase?
you can.
Okay.
So highlights of that $33,000?
So I would say most of the increase is from the healthcare increase in the working rates and the almost 12,000 in the salaries that they're projecting they will need if they
That's
successfully
20, that's
negotiate their contract.
$24,000 of it. Between the salary increase and the healthcare increase. So Jay, you propose no increase?
That's our proposal.
I'll take that vote. Mary Beth?
We talking salaries and department head? What are we, I want to make sure I understand, because there's an
Right now,
increase there.
he's talking salaries. We haven't done department head yet.
So the increase in salaries is $11,809.
And that's a 3%, do the math for me.
It's about 3%. I have that written down, so
Yeah.
it's.
3%.
It's based upon 6 full-time employees. I'm not sure if the part-timers get an
Right.
increase.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would vote for 3%, to be honest with you either. If we're looking to save money.
It's
I
just
mean,
everything is uncertain with everybody else. We do this, it's almost, we're guaranteeing one group versus another, and that's how I'm looking at this. I'm not looking at this as a library, I'm looking at this as Department X versus Department Y, Department Z.
So,
We can revisit it, right?
yeah, we can always revisit
Why
it.
don't we,
Yeah.
why don't we
Well,
wait?
I'm gonna take the vote for cutting it now, and we can talk about it again. You wanna cut it?
Yeah.
I might not be for the full 3%, but I'm not sure
No.
I want to cut it.
Oh, that's what I said. I'm not for 3%. I'm not saying necessarily it has to be 0, so I think we need more discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay in between as well.
All right, we can keep that open right now.
I'll just leave it blank and then we can readdress it.
Department head salary, same thing? Same thoughts, same sentiment?
If you need any clarification, yeah.
Oh, I didn't see it back there. Come on up.
Oh, I should get budget.
Yeah, that increase in department head, the way it works at the library is the director.
You just wanna speak into the mic so they can hear you.
The way it works at the library is the director piggybacks on whatever the union negotiates.
It's happened here in town hall also. All department heads piggyback what their department gets,
Okay.
so. And that's for 6 full-time employees, not the part-time.
That's for 6 full-time employees, and I was giving the part-time employees a 50-cent an hour raise. That's in there as well.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Any
Yeah.
questions? All right, we'll revisit it next public session.
Okay.
Public hearing.
Okay.
Parks? Any issues with Parks and Rec?
I have a question on it.
Questions?
Similar questions I had last year, is, we say, all right, we have Dave's here, right?
Dave's here.
We have one parks foreman, we have two positions that are in DPW that go to parks for eight or 9 months, correct?
Correct.
Do we have any part-time people?
We will in the summertime. We anticipate having part-time people.
Now, when you
yes.
say summer, what do you,
For our
what,
some,
2
once,
months,
once
3
the kids
months?
get out of school, we'll be advertising to hire summer laborers.
is that for when you say there's an increase in part-time wages
Yes,
from what you requested and the town manager gave it a $10,000 bump?
yes,
Is that what's that for?
in hopes of hiring more laborers.
Okay, how many more?
We're not certain yet. It's hard to get them. From what I'm being told, they've only been able to muster up 2 per season.
Those are the kids, like, I mean, typically, those are the kids that are usually out on
Kids
the
that you're
bike
gonna
path,
bring in to
right?
help
Days you come home
cutting.
from college or
Correct.
whatever, and
Yes.
whatever it may be.
Would it make sense to, I brought up last year, we didn't do it, so, which is fine, but would it make sense to, instead of depending on kids, to hire a 8-month or 9-month laborer at 20 hours a week? Or 19 hours a week? Does it help?
I've
No
never
vacation,
tried
no
that.
sick?
That might be a tough order to fill. I'm not sure. It's something we can certainly look at, but it's not something I've ever tried in my experience. It's usually part-time summer help, which I'll admit is getting hard to get nowadays. You know, we used to have them all over the place. It's just hard to get nowadays. You know, they can get a job staying inside nice and clean and, you know, probably for more money than we're going to offer them to come here for the summer. That's been my experience lately.
So on the overtime, it was, the adopted was 55,000.
Correct.
We've used, after, at the end of February, half of that.
Correct.
Putting in for another 55,000, manager cut it to 30.
Yes.
Is that for snow removal as well? Or is that just for?
That's for the Parks Department, the employee we have in the Parks Department,
For what, though?
for any overtime that's incurred.
Bef-
For field maintenance, cutting, anything that's incurred if you'll see, though, that's been cut by the manager, and some of that money moved into part-time employees to try and cut down on the overtime.
Correct.
I can tell you now, I am in discussions with my staff over that overtime. I'm not sure what's required in that department in the springtime. I haven't been here in the springtime. The number looked high to me when I first looked at it, and we are in discussions. As a matter of fact, I had a 4-hour discussion today about it, what's necessary overtime and what's not. And so I can assure you, I am looking into what's necessary and what's not will not be paid out, it will be not used. I can tell you after my 4-hour conversation today, I can agree on there is overtime that's going to be needed there. Some overtime, there's no question about that. If we need all that we've had in the past, jury's still out on that, as
Dave,
far
are we
as I'm
still
concerned.
doing 2 daytime positions and 1 evening position?
Yes, yes.
So pretty much 5 or 6 days out of the week is covered. Morning, noon, and night, so overtime should not be used there.
Correct. That's
including
correct.
the part-timers.
That's right.
One question I do have, you have a secretary for the Civic Center / Parks.
Yes.
That secretary's, if they're doing 50% scheduling here and 50% scheduling there, shouldn't that secretary be in this budget?
I would probably agree with that.
50% of it anyway?
I would agree with that.
So if we can look at that, I mean, it's not fair to the Civic Center's budget that they have a position that's 100% funded out of their budget, but 50% is using for park scheduling, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You want Rich to make it split 50/50?
I would say. I mean, if you're not, because I can tell you, you're not scheduling anything up there in the summer, except for, you know, summer ice maybe, but the Civic Center, as far as sports goes up there, everybody's outdoors in the summer, nobody's indoors.
That's
So
correct.
you're probably scheduling your baseball games, your softball games, your soccer games, all through the summer months, where you're not doing that up there. So I would say 50/50.
There's not a ton of scheduling to do.
You're wrong on baseball, you're wrong on softball, you're wrong on.
What do we schedule? We schedule the fields.
John, would you like to discuss how much scheduling goes on? I mean, John Parenti's here, Rich Grenier can come here.
Hang on, no, what I'm saying is Babe Ruth plays on one field.
There's no baby.
Great. All right, Cal Ripken plays on the Natick fields, correct?
Natick Fields, yes.
So you hand in a schedule for
And
Cal.
Rayner Field.
So,
And minor field.
all right, so you hand in a schedule, this is what I want for the season. You evaluate it, you compare it to the other leagues, you're done, you put it away, that says for the season. Takes about 15 minutes. So I don't know how much the secretary would actually, I mean, they would collect fee, I guess, what is the
So
role, what is the role here
But
of each
I was just gonna
person?
say, I can argue that same point. Hockey, they're gonna come in with a whole season, and once, say the hitmen come in with their season and say, this is what I want for ice,
It's done,
it's 15 minutes.
that's right.
So, but again, all I'm arguing is the salary. The salary itself, whether or not the position's even needed is a question.
Well,
But the salary itself, in my opinion, if you're gonna do half of Parks and Rec and other baseball fields, softball fields and all that, I think it's 50/50, not you know, it's not fair to the Civic Center to take down the whole.
Oh, I agree with
the
you.
whole-
I agree with
Oh,
you,
okay.
but the question
That's why I was confused.
is there enough work for a full-time position?
Well, I can tell you, part of my discussion today was our park supervisor, who has an enormous amount of work to get done during the day. He's also scheduling games, tournaments, of the like. We
Is that
talked-
his role, though?
No, we talked about that should be all going through the secretary. That's how that should all be done. That's a change we're gonna be looking at making. That frees that person up
Right.
to be on the fields, getting everything done. That's where he doesn't have to bother. He showed me today the emails he's getting from teams and tournaments and everything else. That should all be going to the office, not to
Correct.
the outside guy.
I
So,
agree
yeah,
100%.
Yeah, that's a change we need to make.
Okay.
And that work will all be going to the secretary.
Okay. And you approve all the overtime? You are the one?
That's
that-
correct, yes.
Okay.
And I will say this, and Dave, I know it's your first year, but I know I spent 15 years at all those fields. And it's remarkable the amount of work 3 individuals do per season. And last season, they only had 2 individuals for 2/3 of the season, so, again, when you look at Parks and Rec through other communities, they're sitting there with staff of 15, 20 people, and we're sitting on staff of 3. So, I mean, we're cut to the bare bones in that department, but it shows.
It does.
It shows on the bike path, it shows
Yeah.
in some certain recreational areas, and, you know. and
Comes
I
down to
think
what your
Councilman
priorities
Matani
are.
has, you know, and most of us have been involved with the leagues throughout the years. We have the town at heart, and we want our fields to be the best. You know, nothing is a greater feeling when you have people come to McCarthy and now Ray Silver and say, wow, you got back-to-back great fields and, you know, best in the state. When we hold tournaments, I know when we did it for Babe Ruth, I know, John, you've been doing it for 40 years, you know. 37.
Close enough.
You know, when people come to our fields and say what a great field they are,
Yeah.
you know, that shines on our department,
Does.
especially how small it is.
Absolutely.
And I know we wanna fix the right field in McCarthy.
Yeah.
That's at near and dear at Mr. Parenti's heart. Parks is also, any other questions on Parks? No changes? Except for salary? Does anybody have a problem with that salary? I didn't take a vote on that. Jay?
That's fine.
Mary Beth?
Yes.
John? Jay? And I vote yes. Debt service, that is what it is, it's our bills.
So I just had a question about the debt service, though, in terms of the language. So the last part says the wind turbine debt payment excludes West Warwick and school amounts. So, I know, like, Civic Center has a portion of the debt service, right?
This is just the town portion,
This is the town portion,
correct?
but what does it mean by excludes West Warwick?
That just means that it doesn't have wastewater, it's not wastewater, it's wastewater.
Wastewater.
Oh, wastewater, I apologize,
It's
okay.
easy to say.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking,
It doesn't say
who's
West
paying
Warwick.
for it if we're not paying for it? Okay, I'm sorry, my
Yes.
fault.
So the school obviously has their amount budgeted in their budget, the wastewater would have
Okay,
theirs in their budget.
I just didn't understand the
Yeah.
WW, okay.
Capital?
So, this is police, never mind, sorry.
No, it's capital for everything.
It's capital for everyone, okay, so I can discuss fire.
Yep.
So I would like to see the department get at least 2 of the 4 radios that they requested, which they requested $26,000 worth of radios. If we did half, it would be 13,400. I just feel like we should be keeping them current. You know, I think it was last budget or the budget before, we were arguing over a thermal imaging camera, and I think we denied it, but,
No,
you know.
we didn't deny that.
We didn't
approved
deny
it.
it? Did we
No,
give
we
them-
approved that 65.
I just feel like when there's, you know, there's safety involved, we should be listening to the chiefs.
It was a radio. There were 2, and the chief got a grant for one, I believe.
The
That was-
thermal imaging, he had a grant for, and we approved, yeah, Chief Rowe. Chief Barris came before us, and I said, I went, myself, Councilman Giroux, and I think there was one other person there, and Town Manager Jim Thomas at the time. We went before, and we went to the training facility, and we were downstairs, and like I said, with thermal imaging, I couldn't see you
Yeah, I mean, it's
from
so
here to
valuable.
there, but yet, I could see that gentleman in the corner if I had the thermal imaging. And to me, you know, and I'm a firm believer, and I've said it before, I've lost a family member in this town, and I think it's a great asset, and I think, you know, for $6,500, you save one life, it's well worth it.
So just before you address it, Chief, so we had talked about, the flail mower appropriation of 25,000, it was only gonna cost 5,000 to rent it. I mean, maybe some of that money could be shifted.
Okay, well, thank you. And I did want to just mention that with those portable radios, they would be to replace radios that we have right now that aren't code compliant with the microphone. The microphone is one of the things that recently they identified as people get in trouble in high heat environments.
These are radios they bring into the fire.
These are radios that bring into the fire, and so that they're lifeline getting out to the incident commander. So they are very vital, you know, to our operation in a safety way. So I did want to bring that up, okay? So it is very important to us. Okay?
I have a motion from Councilman D'Amico to increase the radios. How much is that financially?
It'd be 13.4.
Jay?
Are we, I should ask when you're up here, sorry, Chief. Are we, is there a replacement program that you have with this? Is there a replacement program that you have with this, with these radios?
No, that's what we put into the budget to start to replace, to actually start to replace these. We have about 60 portable radios. Right now, we have about 11 on the apparatus that have been replaced with the APX. I have the
Your
Director
radio
of
guru is
Communication.
here.
Yeah, our radio guru, I'll let him address that.
When Chief Barris was chief and I became director 8 years ago, Chief Barris and I put a program together where we actually have about 60 radios. We went into a program where every year we asked for 4 radios, and every year we've gotten 4 radios. Last year we asked for 4, it got cut down to 2, which we were satisfied with. But this year we asked for 4 for the simple reason is we want to get rid of the last 4 radios that are not currently serviced by Motorola. They're out of production and they're out of service. Motorola does not service them anymore. So we'd like to get those last 4. We put them in abatement. We'll use them as backups, but we'd like to get them out of front-running trucks and get our last 4 replaced with the current serviceable radios that Motorola currently offers. So we started this program approximately 6 years ago, and we've been going every year. And every year I put it into the capital.
So let me ask you, this will be the last 4. Will you be requesting 4 more next year?
I probably would request 2. I'd rather go back and just go with 2 because they are still serviceable, but it's just every year these radios take a beating. They go into fires. They get used 365 days a year, 24/7. They don't last forever. They'd probably be useful to go back into reserve and go on our reserve pieces where they're not used every day, but they do get used every single day.
Any other questions? So I have a motion for 2. Jay?
Yes.
Mary Beth?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Yes.
Are we gonna carry across everything else that was on the manager column?
I'm ready to ask now. Anything else on capital? Any other?
I think that the 2 mowers, the Skag and the 60-inch commercial. Can we get one?
Can I pin down fire? So just for fire, so everything else that manager requested will carry over to council? The chest compression, the laptop, the factory, street microwave link, and the hose?
Yep.
Okay.
Jay, you were talking about?
The Skag mower in DPW and the 60-inch commercial in parks.
Isn't that on there? Or do we?
They're both on here.
Yeah.
Is Dave here?
Yeah, he's in the hallway.
Dave, Councilman LaCharity asked about the Skag mower and the mower for parks and the mower for DPW.
Yes.
If you had to rank them first for a need.
Well, obviously, the need in Parks and Rec is greater than the need in the Highway Department for that newer mower, yes.
So could the highway mower, could the highway department use your your worst mower if they needed it to.
Very, very possible, yes.
All right.
So wait, I don't understand any of this, because I don't get the mowers. So wait, I just want to make sure. So okay, so we're renting the flail mower
Yes,
to cut the big stuff.
correct.
It's the scag mowers that then maintain it.
That's correct.
So what Councilman Licciardi is saying.
Keep the one for parks and remove the one from DPW.
I think that's what he's asking me,
Yeah,
which one would
and
be
that-
more
and that-
important.
Is that reasonable?
The more important one would be Parks and Rec. They do a lot more cutting than the Highway Department does. You know, the highway cutting would be, you know, roadside cutting, which we do with a lot of small equipment right now. The request for the larger equipment would be less manpower, covering a lot more ground, you know.
So because we've had the flail mower and done some cleanup, which looks great around here.
Yeah.
Do we need the 25 for that? Could that be cut back and we could lease that?
Yeah, actually, the flail mower, we're gonna just take right off the table for now. That's gonna be right out of there.
So we're not appropriating 5 to rent it?
What we did was we came to the council, we got permission to use that, to rent that flail mower, the only one we can find. I think it might have come out of Connecticut. I could tell you to date, we have not used it yet. It's been sitting in our yard. It's been under repair. I'm basically ready to tell the guy I've missed my window where I had all the help available to use that machine. Take it back. I'll try it again in the fall. We have done a lot of work without it on the bike path, up and down it, so that's kind of the route we're taking right now. I may reappropriate that money that was approved to rent that towards buying some fencing. We have some very dangerous areas on the bike path that we need to pay attention to immediately. I'm probably going to reappropriate that $5,000 to buy some fencing.
So there's
That's out of this
25
year's though, right?
That's correct.
That's this
That's
year.
out of
That's
this
nothing to do
year's.
with next
That's
year.
correct.
But
But
there's
you got the flail
25 in
mower.
here.
Yeah, you got the flail
So you're saying you don't think you'll need it next year then?
What's that?
The flail.
I still have in my budget a $5,000 line item again for next year. If I need it again,
Okay.
I will use it,
So you
correct?
don't need the 25,000?
No,
in
because the
capital?
25 is not going to
Yeah.
cover the price of a flail mower anyway,
that's
so
correct.
that's correct.
So, that being said, the scag mower at 15,
Yep.
So
you
if we
had your
move,
druthers, yeah.
That would be good if we could do
Keep
that. Yeah,
keep
absolutely.
And then take the 25
That
out,
would be
we're 10
great.
grand ahead.
Yes,
Up to 60-inch
that's correct.
commercial mower for parks,
Yes,
the
that's a
9,000.
yes.
that's a
Yes,
yes.
yes. Yes, that would be fantastic if that can be done, absolutely.
So what are we looking at removing here?
So leaving the scag mower, removing the flail mower, keeping the 60-inch commercial.
Are we
That's it.
leaving everything else for DPW compressor, deep tracker camera, and the rotor delivery?
Yeah, we talked
I
about
could just
that.
tell you those three pieces of equipment go hand in hand with the
Those
drainage
the
work we're
drainage
trying to
issue,
accomplish.
yes.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Kristen, will you be able to send out an updated capital budget sheet so that we can see it clean and
Updating
clear?
as we go along.
Okay.
Any other questions on capital? This is the last page of the budget.
With the police, we're assuming we're carrying everything across?
Yeah. One thing, and I'll let public comment come up on this in 1 second. Just part of our budget, the last final pages are all the salaries of all the employees. You can look over that as general public if you'd like. It's there. It's open to the public. There's nothing to hide. So that being said, Joe, if you want to come to the mic. I see you're on your way up already.
I missed something going along with the budget on the street lighting.
Yep.
I know that the town of Johnston had sued the National Grid for the street lights that they said that was on state property, state highways, and I understand they won the suit.
So
And I know we had a problem with the
So right now, we're all Prism, we're not National Grid, but Mr. Solicitor can answer that because he was part of that conversation.
They filed a lawsuit, and it was actually, even though they won, they settled moving
Right.
forward. And so the issue of they're going to pay going forward, but they don't have to pay going back. But the issue is with Prism, the town's got a contract with them already, so National Grid has been kind of moved out, if I could be as bold to say that. So right now, the town of West Warwick and the town of Johnston are completely the same. And also, too, the town of Johnston have had all the lighting along 295, that we don't have the same volume of lights. So, it's not really apples to oranges, but it's not really the same. But Prism's been, the
Yeah, but-
contract for how long now? About a few
Yeah, but
years
we
easy.
did had street lighting that was on state highways that we were paying for a while.
Right, but I'm just saying, as far as volume, it's a lot different than what they have in Johnston.
So Joe.
Oh, yeah, I
Numbers-wise,
understand that.
yeah.
Joe, just to point out that Johnston didn't get paid anything in the rears. So if we went to the same lawsuit.
We couldn't go
it'd
back.
be moving forward. We don't have National Grid anymore. We have
Right.
Prism. And we save, by getting rid of National Grid, we save $200,000 a year. So, you know, it'd kind of be a waste. We'd be sending our lawyer to court to get nothing.
Okay.
And we'd be spending money on the lawyer.
Okay.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I was just curious how I know I saw it, that Johnston was settled.
And there's also no guarantee that there would be a settlement either based
Right.
upon the volume that we don't have, that Johnston did have.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on the budget? Mr. Boucher?
Well, I haven't had a chance to really peruse it. I'm also going to have Rose take a look at it because of her accounting experience with Bank of America. But there's a few things in here that were really wow. And the one thing that got my eye is under fire, page 20, sixth line from the bottom, hydrants. 2016, $375,546. 2018, $550,065. And then we got projected for fiscal year, $508,394.
Welcome to Kent County Water. They're the ones charging us for it.
Holy crap. I mean, it's like, how many hydrants do we have in this town?
We can give you a total, we have a total somewhere.
665 or something, right? I believe that.
We're getting fleeced. I also have one other
You can
question.
blame the PUC and the Kent County Water on that one.
Okay, I'll happily do that. There was a lot here for medical insurance under the tax assessors, and I ran a quick calculation.
What page, Chris?
Yeah, page 17.
Yep.
Fiscal year 2018 for the tax assessor, 199,730. It was 193,000 actual, and then we got up to
What are you
199. The bottom line, the total. And then for 2019, we've got $392,835. And I saw here we got a revaluation expense of $158,000. And medical insurance took a jump, almost doubled at $44,123. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So you're looking at 18 and 19 adopted?
Yeah. Yeah, why did medical insurance go up so much?
Well, do we have our floater in here too? Does it go? So we also put a floater in our budget last year, or the year before, and they work the building official's office and the tax assessor's office, so they go back and forth. So you're gonna see half of that salary, half of everything that cost them into this budget, and half in the building official's budget, instead of all in one budget.
But Kristen, also, we are
We're
upgrading.
upping the working rates, yes, and then if you look back at fiscal year 17 and 18, I believe there were gaps in staff for the tax assessor, so the complete expense was not hitting the books back then. There was a gap of time before we hired Sal.
Right.
So that would cause those numbers to look lower. But yes, absolutely, the jump from 19 is about 8,000, and that's because of the working rates.
The academy was to half a year in the previous fiscal year without the exception.
Right.
All right. Oh, and I'm just kind of curious about DPW. Department of Public Works, page 21.
Thank you.
Sixth line down, overtime. I looked at that and I said, wow, $157,365 in overtime. And we got $150,000 projected for fiscal year 2020. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? That's a lot of overtime.
Where are we?
Overtime.
Line 6, page 21.
Well, I can elaborate a little bit, and Dave can elaborate. First of all, snowstorms happen on a Sunday. That's not a normal workday. Snowstorms happen on Saturday. That's not a normal workday. Depends on, if we cut that and you go all the way down to nothing or very little, and you have something major happen, 2010, anybody, those guys can tell you in the middle road there, our DPW is putting in plenty of overtime and trying to help out residents. This is one department I'd have very little say in overtime because of the fact that you can't depend, you can't call on Mother Nature and what's gonna happen.
Mhm.
That's majority of their overtime.
But it
Dave,
is-
am I correct on that?
But Dave is also now approving all overtime.
Yeah.
So that is happening before people work it.
Right, also, the bulk pickup now is done by
And that's
Public
been
Works.
reduced, because adopted last year was 161, we went down to 150.
And the bulk pickup previously was through the, whatever the line item for, to pay Meg, I don't know what line item that would have.
Rubbish contract.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't think so, but, boy, we gotta make some cuts. This is expensive.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Can I make a clarification?
Sure.
I was reviewing our conversation, and it's actually 9 full-time positions, not 6.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Hearing none?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're gonna take a 5-minute recess, we're gonna go right into the council meeting. Just gotta get set up. And potty breaks and whatever.